Welcome back to the Librarium of Ludus Infinium and 40k lore with Ludus Infinium. Well, technically 30k lore. So today I decided I'm going to go back to my full-on researched and edited lore videos, and I will only use the book series, the Horus Heresy book series, as kind of when I need a break um or just when I'm running really short on time, which I probably should have done this time because I am running quite a bit late. However, I did manage to squeak this one out, so let's get into it. So, to give a bit of backstory, I did a lore video on my favorite Traitor Legion, the Thousand Sons. So I thought a way to come back into full-on lore videos, the best way to do it was to do my favorite Loyalist Legion. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a minute to figure out who that was. I thought about the non-Loyalist Legions. I eventually narrowed it down to three: the White Scars, Imperial Fists, and Salamanders. And then okay, White Scars, they're cool, but meh. So then I came down to the Imperial Fist and the Salamanders. The Imperial Fist, I was like, I like their descendants, the Black Templar, to an extent, the Celestial Lions, just because bad shit happens to them. But then I looked at the Salamanders, and I realized that I'm trying to specialize in 30k in the Horus Heresy, that for that time period, the Salamanders for me was my favorite loyalist. They went through a lot of trials, and somehow came out of that one on the other end. I think the only one that probably had it realistically worse off as a loyalist than the Salamanders would possibly be the Iron Hands. However, let's try and answer the questions. Where do they come from? Who are they? What are their motivations? And how do they take care of the Imperium's enemies in a kind of permanent way? So, in order to understand this, we got to go way back, before the Horus Heresy, to the founding of three legions. Little is known of the 18th Legion, later to be known as the Dragon Warriors or Salamanders, along with the 6th, also known as the Space Wolves, and the 20th, the Alpha Legion. They were all made in near complete secrecy, known only to the Emperor and a handful of aides. Now, the reason for the creation of the Dragon Warriors is still pretty unknown to this day. Now, the interesting thing about them is that one trait they have over other Space Marines is their their fanatical desire to protect humans, regular humans. Most Space Marines see humans as either in the way or just an out-and-out obstruction. And as a way to get past obstruction, they normally look at collateral damage in a very favorable light. The Salamanders do not. The Salamanders look at collateral damage as I'm going to beat the shit out of you light. But let's take a little trip to the Ultima Segmentum, to a death world called Nocturne, and a baby that crashed there in a pod that grew bigger than its inhabitants in just 3 years. Vulcan. Yeah, Vulcan. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, I have watched If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device, and I love their portrayal of Vulcan as this half-insane Primarch who also talks like an orc, and all he cares about is giving out hugs. Because as much of a parody and satire as that is, that's not very far off. So, back to the point. Vulcan was raised by the blacksmith Nibel. I'm assuming that's correct. I'm bad at English. That is, I'm assuming English. It's English letters. Who saw Vulcan as a savior foretold by the Promethean cult, which will be important. So, after he grew up, during his 4th year on Nocturne, a Dark Eldar raid took place, and Vulcan proved his place as savior by encouraging the village to fight instead of hide, and killed 100 Dark Eldar, the creepy little BDSM fetishist space elves, with only blacksmith hammers. Yeah, blacksmith hammers. Wish that was a joke. Anyway, after this conflict, a celebratory tournament was held. And the most important part of the ceremony, at least as far as I'm concerned, was the final trial, where the last two people standing were Vulcan and a mysterious stranger who no one, including Vulcan, had any fucking clue who he was, to see who could kill the largest salamander. So Vulcan made his way up Mount Deathfire. That's its name. It's a volcano. Deathfire. Yeah. Let's just move on. Anyway, and slew a giant salamander, but got trapped hanging off a cliff by one hand. The mysterious stranger came and rescued him, and used his even bigger salamander as a bridge over some lava, because they have extremely heat-resistant skin, apparently, to turn in Vulcan's kill. Since Vulcan was the only one with a salamander, he did technically win. But he silenced the cheers of the crowds and knelt before the stranger, saying that a man who valued another man's life above reward and pride deserved his service. The stranger then revealed himself at that moment, because, of course, dramatic effect, as the Emperor of Mankind. So, I want to point something out real quick. I like that. I really like that, because even though Vulcan won, he literally said, any man who values another man's life over pride or reward deserved his service. That will go on to shape the Salamanders as a whole, but that's one of the reasons why I really like, the half orky Vulcan who loves to give out hugs. It is parody to an extent, but he really does see all life as precious, and that no matter what the cost, the Salamanders themselves and Vulcan need to protect all life at any cost. Anyway, sorry, I keep digressing. After years of tutelage under the Emperor, Vulcan finally rejoined his sons with 3,000 fresh recruits from Nocturne in the nick of time, too. The original group, led by Commander Cassian Vaughn of only 19,000, only 19,000, was being horribly beaten by a force of over 1 million orcs. Because 19,000 is less than a million. With the arrival of Vulcan and the others, they broke the orc horde and pursued them with rage and fire, because that's going to be a constant theme with the Salamanders. Let's burn it all to the fucking ground. After this fight, which cost the lives of countless Astartes and the Lord Commander, the 18th returned to Nocturne and built a stronghold on its moon, Prometheus. Now, I want to go into something real quick. Prometheum is the fuel source for flamers. The moon is called Prometheus. And it's any fucking surprise that the Salamanders are written to enjoy fire a little too much? Methinks not. Anyway, as a show of respect for the first master of the 18th, Vulcan himself crafted a unique dreadnought called the Iron Dragon so he can continue his service as protector of Prometheus. I almost said Proctor. Also at this time, the 18th, or Dragon Warriors, would forever be known as the Salamanders. One instance before the Horus Heresy of major importance is the Joint Imperial Compliance Action of World 154-6. It was carried out by the Salamanders and the Night Lords. The fluffiest of the pyromaniac space marines and the most heinous of torturers in the Imperium. In fact, I'm positive that the Night Lords wrote some books that the Inquisition didn't actually burn and instead used themselves to this day. During the compliance action, Vulcan became very upset. Yes, upset, because Vulcan doesn't get pissed, he gets upset. He gets his fifis hurt with Conrad Kurz due to the brutal nature of Kurz and his Night Lords. After the campaign was over, Vulcan reported this instance to both Rogel Dorn and Horus, thus sowing seeds of anger and distrust between Vulcan and the Salamanders and Kurz and his Night Lords. This would come back to bite him in the ass. Well, actually, this would not directly come back to bite him in the ass, but it definitely wouldn't help. During the Horus Heresy, one of the most damning battles of the Salamanders, if not the only battle of the Salamanders, was the Dropsite Massacre on Istvan V. On Istvan V, the Emperor sent 7 legions to quell the rebellion led by Horus and his sons of Horus, and the legions of the Death Guard, the Emperor's children, and the World Eaters. The 7 legions were the Salamanders, the Iron Hands, the Raven Guard, the Alpha Legion, the Iron Warriors, the Word Bearers, and the Night Lords. Unbeknownst to the former 3, being Salamanders, Iron Hands, and Raven Guard, the latter 4, Alpha Legion on, were also all traitors. So after beating their forces against the original traitors, Horus and, all the originals, Death Guard, the Salamanders and Raven Guard did retreat. Ferrus Manus did not retreat of the Iron Hands. He said, I'm going to go kill Fulgrim, and got his head cut off. Now, the Salamanders and Raven Guard retreated. The Salamanders were embroiled in a fight against the World Eaters, retreated from that fight, and came up to the Iron Warriors, who waited until the last second till both Perturabo, the Primarch of the Iron Warriors, met Vulcan's gaze, and then they opened fire and decimated their numbers, and to the point where after the heresy, the introduction of the Codex Astartes by Rabute Guilliman was resisted by Vulcan, Dorn, and Russ. However, Guilliman relented a little bit with Vulcan and said that since there were so few salamanders that they wouldn't have to be broken up. There's rumored that there's only 2 descendant chapters of the salamanders, the storm giants and the black dragons. It's not confirmed. And from what I saw, I think the current salamanders numbers are like 800. So it would seriously surprise me if they. It would surprise me if they are, and it would surprise me if they. It would not surprise me. Hold on, let me English this right. It would surprise me if they are, and it would also surprise me if they weren't. And basically, I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I could see them being descendant. At the same time, I could also see that they couldn't be just because there's too fucking few of them. But that is where I'm going to leave the story of the Salamanders for now. And when I do pick it back up, we will see what happens to them after the Horus Heresy, and mostly in the War for Armageddon, because that's a story I like. And that's actually one of the best cases of Vulcan's children getting pissed off at loyal Space Marines for collateral damage. And also, I will do an independent video of Vulcan's full story, because I did glaze over a lot with Vulcan. And that's because this was not about Vulcan. This was about the Salamanders, the Legion / chapter. But, with that all being said, if you want to support the channel, there are many ways to do it. If you just subscribe, like, and join the Discord. And when you join the Discord, throw out suggestions for videos you want to see, ways to change the videos around, stuff like that. Or if you want to, if you can and want to donate, there is a Patreon and a Streamlabs in the description. But the most important thing of all, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!